be friends. Why are you doing this, please? I would have never left, I swear, I swear.
You know, one thing we have been telling you here on Man with the Show, the independent film should be very respected right now. That's the type of content that's making money these days in the movie theater. The independent movie, the right independent movie. We're talking about people who are looking to create great stories, put them out. And one of the biggest, and you know, when you look to the perspective that one of the biggest money-making independent film in history, which is the Blair Witch Project, falls under the category of horror films. And what we're seeing a progression of horror films that have been out in the last several weeks that have been doing a lot better than mainstream high-budget movies, with the exception of like Spider-Man and Top Gun, and a couple of other films that stand out. And what we're seeing is a push for a lot more of this. Now, the other half of the story is we're seeing characters, IPs that have been held by Disney at one point that are now being used as being made into horror movies, a la the Winnie the Pooh horror movie, Blood and Honey, which is coming out, I believe, early next year, 2023. And, you know, right behind this is that the original Mickey Mouse, the Steamboat Willie, copyright is up in 2 more years. And it'd be interesting what someone can do with that character. Would they create a horror film? But nevertheless, there is one other character from storybook land that's getting its own horror film. But before we start, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, share this video. By now, at the time of this recording, we were about 5 to 7 out of 600. Hopefully we've gotten to that level, to 600, and I thank those of you, the viewers, who have constantly been watching our shows on all social media platforms. I thank you very much. Liking, commenting, sharing, we really do appreciate it. So, we said before, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, director 2, but it looks like Peter Pan is going to be the next in this genre. I mean, we've heard before, there have been a Pinocchio horror film, Banana Splits has had a horror film. You know, you've had many different characters in storybook land and cuddly characters for kids turned into horror movies. And it is a genre in itself. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. I mean, some of this stuff goes all the way back to the Renaissance period, the first true Renaissance of the independent films from the 80s and the 90s. And, you know, you have many different horror films that were made in that time period, or the VHS era. The VHS era itself, you know, you can point back. In fact, that third documentary, Into Darkness, will be discussing that. The VHS boxes, the forgotten, and there's still a ton of them that are forgotten that hasn't crossed over into DVD or even digital. It's that they're still out there. But we're going to read this off of IGN. Generally, I don't like IGN. Their articles sometimes are real garbage. But once in a while, on a basic article, they come through. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey director, is preparing a Peter Pan horror movie too. The viral low-budget horror movie to theaters, but the director has already had sights on another public domain horror movie concept. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Fandom Events announced that it will release directors Reese Frake's Waterford slasher movies into theaters on February 15th across the U.S. with plans to showcase the film in the UK, Canada, and Mexico. Frake Waterfield is already planning a sequel to go along with this first movie as well. Another murderous take on public domain children's series, Peter Pan, Neverland Nightmare. Details are sparse and will likely have to wait until Blood and Honey is released, but the interest generated in the film seemingly paved the way for a sequel and follow-up. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey was created through the following children's classics book entering public domain in January 2022. Blood and Honey stars Pharaoh Pooh and Piglet, and they go on a murder spree in the 100-acre woods. So basically, you have this particular director that's just taking children's classics and turning them over. But see, the thing is, you have to put in this perspective, with the exception of Winnie the Pooh, a lot of the other classics, Cinderella, Pinocchio, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, if you go read the original text, they have dark endings. Like Pinocchio gets hung from a tree at the end of his story. Jiminy Cricket gets killed. I think, what is it? Pinocchio kills Jiminy Cricket, and then he gets hung. And Pinocchio gets hung from a tree. Cinderella, I think the stepsisters or the mother are given some sort of iron shoes heated up, and they have to wear them, and it's literally torture. There is many dark tales. You can go back and look at them. A lot of the times when these things enter public domain, a lot of the stories are twisted, turned upside down. Disney has taken a lot of these stories. People make fun. Oh, they're dark. They seem to be dark. Yeah, they are dark. They're truly dark. And you could go back and look at the original text and see how dark they are. Those novels are still around to this day. That's why once in a while, pick up a book to read. And the thing is, you say, well, how much money could they make? How much money could they make? If you go right now to the box office, there's a ton of horror films right now that are out. Some of them have already traversed to online services. I think, what is it? Is it HBO Max? That they got Barbarian. If you haven't seen that movie yet, my wife loved it. It was really good. Starts out a little slow. But when you look at Barbarian at the box office, and this is current week, because it's still out on the box office, you're talking about a $40 million box office. And you say, well, that's not a lot. That's not a lot on there. Well, the movie cost $4.5 million to make, and it grossed $40 million. It's crossed its threshold to making money on there. And right now, the one that's like in the top 10, another one is, and it's just out recently, is Smile, which, I heard it's not that great of a film. But a lot of people went to it because it was a lot creepy. Obviously, a movie with a budget of $17 million, and it's just barely, and these numbers are US wide. And you look at Smile, and it's done about $100 million. If you look at their total, believe it or not, Smile has made globally $203 million on there. Going back to Barbarian worldwide, Barbarian didn't do too well internationally, but $44 million, but still popular online. On that, you hear a lot of people talking about it online, but that's really good. But then here's the one that gets you, and this is similar to Blair Witch, not as far as concept, as far as how much money was pumped into it. If you haven't seen it, first one was bloody. The sequel is even more bloodier and terrifying than the first. And you know what I'm going to say is the Terrifier 2, which basically globally has done about 10 million. And you're like saying, well, that's not a lot of money. Yeah, international 238. But when you look at what it cost to make, I think this was like $250,000 crowdfunding for the Terrifier. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to make. That's a very low cost for a film that got a release. Still in the theaters. Supposed to hit streaming soon. I think it'll hit streaming probably in the next couple of weeks. But from what has been told, and supposedly there's going to be a third. They're pumping to get a third film in the series on there, and it happens to this particular character works. So when you get a horror film character, it's hard to replicate a Jason or Freddy or Michael Myers or Texas Chainsaw Man. You know, when you have films like that have gone throughout the years, you know, it's hard to get another one in there. You know, we have Megan coming out next year. Is that the next Child's Play? You know, because basically, you know, we're dealing with the next level. They tried going a little bit more digital, you know, going to more computerized digital social media on the newer Chucky movie, but didn't work out. The TV series at least stayed within the level and continued from the story on from the movies. It hasn't been that great in the last couple episodes lately. One major surprise, but you know, supposedly a major death has happened, and I haven't seen that last episode yet. So tell me in the comments below your thoughts. Do you think a Peter Pan movie, going to Neverland and being tortured and murdered by Peter Pan, will work out? How would it work out? Who would be the creatures in there? How would the characters be turned evil in this series? So don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, share. We'll see you on the next video. Thank you for tuning in, and bye-bye now.